corazón. Vamos nomás.
According to theatlantic.com, in 1998, Adam Vassar, a 13-year-old boy who loved playing baseball, was vacationing in Montana with his family when he suddenly came down with what felt like the flu. When he started losing his breath and his legs started swelling up, they decided to take him to a nearby clinic. The doctor on duty checked his vitals and immediately sent them to the hospital that was across the street. By the time his family arrived a few minutes later, Adam was in complete heart failure. For months, Adam waited in hospital for a heart transplant, during which time his heart was only able to pump with the assistance of an LVAD, which is a left ventricular assist device. About 4.5 months after getting sick, Adam underwent a heart transplant that saved his life, but thousands of people aren't that lucky. Today I will be discussing some problems that can be solved by becoming an organ donor, the benefits of being an organ donor, and I will rebut some oppositions of organ donations. According to the Alliance for Donation, in the United States alone, 21 people die every day waiting for an organ transplant. Although 45% of American adults are registered organ donor, it varies by state, because in 2012 in Alaska, more than 80% of people were registered as organ donors, compared to in New York, only 12.7% of people were registered. There's obviously a shortage of organs. According to data compiled by the Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network, more than 500 people in New York died last year, waiting for an organ to become available. And 6,570 Americans die every year awaiting for a donor's organ. What would fix all of these problems? Well, if everyone would just register to be an organ donor. It's that simple. So that way when we pass away, we can save a life. So I've discussed some problems that can be saved by just registering as an organ donor. Now I will discuss the benefits of becoming an organ donor. Organ transplants save lives. Also, some donor families believe that the act of donation helps them in the grieving process. It doesn't take the pain of the loss. However, it does help them know that someone else is alive because of their loved ones. Some of the ways organ transplants help recipients is, for example, a heart transplant would be used for patients with heart diseases like congenital heart disease and coronary artery disease. Lung transplant will go to patients who suffer from diseases like emphysema, pulmonary fibrosis, cystic fibrosis, or pulmonary hypertension. Liver transplants would go for patients with diseases like hepatitis or biliary atresia. Kidney transplants for patients with diabetes, hypertension, polycystic kidney disease, and then pancreas transplant to patients who suffer with diabetes. And then we have intestine transplants for patients suffering from short bowel syndrome, among other disorders. And the best benefit is knowing although your time was up in the world, you got to save a whole lot of lives. So now that I've discussed some of the benefits, I will go over the most common oppositions and rebut them. So the most common things people say is, I don't think my religion supports donation. Most major religions in the U.S. support organ donations as the final act of love and generosity towards others. Another example would be, if they see I'm an organ donor at the hospital, then they won't try to save my life. Well, when you're sick or injured or admitted to the hospital, the priority is to save your life. to do everything they can to make sure you're okay. Donation doesn't become a possibility until all the life-saving methods have failed. Then we also have rich or famous people on waiting lists get organs faster. That's not true at all. A national computer system matches donated organs to recipients. The factors used in matching include blood type, time spent waiting, other important medical information, like how sick the person is, and geographic location. Race, income, and celebrities are never considered. Another example is, my family won't be able to have an open casket funeral if I'm a donor. An open casket funeral is usually possible for organ, eye, and tissue donors. Through the entire process, the body is treated with care, respect, and dignity. Another example would be, my family will have to pay for the donation. There's no cost to donors for their family's organs or tissue donation. Another common one would be, if I'm in a coma, would they take my organs? The majority of diseased organ donors are patients who have been brain damaged, but brain dead is not the same as a coma. People can recover from comas, but they can't recover from being brain dead. Another example is, people in the LGBT community can't donate. There is no policy or federal regulation that excludes a member from the LGBT community from donating organs. What matters in organ donation is the health of the organ, not the person or their belief or anything like that. In conclusion, I've discussed problems from not being an organ donor. Also went over that the solution to all those problems is simply just registering to be an organ donor, and a few oppositions about organ donations that I rebutted. So we came to the conclusion that registering as an organ donor is a selfless thing to do and can save many lives and make a huge difference in this world. Thank you.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's nice.